Hello! This is the Insurance Perspectives podcast presented by HawkSoft, and today we have another episode featuring Dr. Elia Gourgouris. This episode is a recording of his session titled Navigating Conflict, presented at the 2025 HawkSoft User Group Conference, Hug at Sea. Dr. Elia talks about the 4 personality types during a conflict, as well as how to become a navigator in those situations. We hope you enjoy his presentation, and be sure to follow the podcast on Apple and Spotify, and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Thank you, and enjoy.
Well, I have given talks all over the world, never standing in a nice drink. And it's cold here. So talk about navigating conflict. Woo! All right, let's go. So, human nature, when we're facing a challenge or a crisis of some kind, there's typically 4 different ways to go about it. There's 4 different personality types. The first one we like to call the victim. And the victim, of course, is, why is this happening to me? As if it's only happening to me and not, 7, 8 billion other people. So that's number 1. The second one is the critic. Now the critic, no matter what's being said, they're always in blame mode. Always. They're frustrated, they're angry, they're upset. They just get hijacked. That's the best way to say it. They get emotionally hijacked. They get triggered so quickly and they get mad. The third one is what I like to call the bystander. This is somebody who's so overwhelmed by, and we saw a lot of that during the pandemic especially. They're so overwhelmed by changes that are taking place both on a global, local, national, family, home, at work, and so on. And they're frozen in fear. It's kind of funny that I'm saying that as I'm frozen here, period. I can never tell this joke in anywhere else because I'm not going to be standing in ice again in my life. So they're truly frozen in fear. And what all 3 of these have in common is they don't move the needle forward to some kind of positive resolution, right? Either it's poor me, I get mad, or I'm just on the sidelines basically watching life go by and have an inability to make a critical or an important decision in my life. The fourth one is the navigator, and we'll talk about, the call to action, of course, is for each one of us to become navigators of our own lives and to share that energy, that positivity with our teams. But before I go on to what navigators do so well and successfully, and this is my old clinical psychologist hat, is it's not like, well, Dr. Elia is a navigator and you're the victim, you're the critic. It's not like that. All human beings have all 4 of those within themselves. We all have that. So, and that's just human nature. Sometimes, even I'll get like, why did this happen? The key to life is when you're experiencing a challenge and you fall under, the first question I want to ask you, what category do you fall in? What is your default when it first happens? Not when it happens eventually, but immediately, what is your default? I shared this concept when I was writing my second book with our youngest son at the time. He was 20 years old. And before I finished explaining that, he goes, Dad, you know what I do? And of course I raised him, but it's different. It's different with me telling him what he is versus him owning it. He goes, Dad, I go into victim mode. He used to do that a lot. Then I get mad, which he did a lot, raising him. Then I navigate, and he's not a very fearful person, so I'm not into fear, so that's number 4. And I said, son, first of all, it's remarkable that you have that kind of self-awareness, that at 20 years old, you know what your default is. The goal, of course, as you grow up and mature and so on, is start navigating more, and maybe that becomes your second. Get angry less, navigate more, feel what that feels like and how successful and how good you feel, and ultimately your default is that your navigation, and then there's the victim, the critic. He's not 26 years old. To his great credit, and really his mom and I have nothing to do with that, honestly. As an adult, he got it and he moved into action. So now he does navigate first. However, every once in a while, because we're imperfect human beings, we're gonna feel like a victim from time to time. So the question is, if you want to be a victim, do it for half an hour, not for half a century. We know people who are stuck in victimhood forever, not just circumstantially. I mean, that's how they live their lives, right? So I mean, I had some issues during the pandemic with how things were handled globally, nationally, and so on. It kind of pissed me off a few times. But if I stay mad at the government for the next 6 years, who am I hurting? Them or myself? So, and basically the critic mode is just energy. You want to move the energy out of your system. Go to the gym, lift some weights, go for a run, journal, talk to somebody, open up your heart and say, yeah, this is really making me mad. And move that energy and then pivot and become a navigator. That's all we're saying. We're not saying don't ever be a victim, don't ever be critical, don't ever get afraid. What we're saying is don't be stuck there for the rest of your life or for the rest of the month or even for the rest of the week. I would even dare say not even for the rest of the day, because today's the only day that we have, honestly. And if I spend it on victimhood or being mad, and by the way, what the first three have in common, they don't move the needle forward to a positive resolution. They don't take personal responsibility, right? So, when you have, first of all, that's for you to own and do your own little personal assessment with fairness and with kindness towards yourself and love and say, you know what, I'm not quite a navigator just yet. If you are, good for you, that's awesome. But I also want you to share that with your teammates. Because when you get into a group, there's a group conflict. To me, because I've done this long enough, I can identify, oh, here comes the critic. There's always somebody in every group that goes into the offensive, yells, screams, is mad, frustrated, and so on. There's always somebody else who's so fearful, they don't say anything. They're in the corner, and they don't say a word. And you know how you know them? They're completely shut down emotionally. There's no affect, there's no smile, there's nothing. The head is down, they don't even make any eye contact. They're like, I wish this earth could open up and swallow me right now. I don't even want to be here with these crazy people. And of course, the victim is the poor me. And I shared this a couple of days ago. The quickest way to change from victimhood to going navigator is to change the question, not why is this happening to me, or why is this happening for me? That will change the outcome when you ask that question. I guarantee it. I want you to practice that. I pray that you all feel like a victim sometime the next week. And remember this word, go, wait a minute. He said just to change one word instead of to me, to for me, right? And notice what happens. Because the greatest lessons in life don't ever come from our success. They come from what we perceive at the time to be failures, weaknesses, setbacks, mistakes, right? And just like Nelson Mandela said in life there are no mistakes. Either you win or you learn. So when you go into the learning mode, you're no longer a victim. Now you're like an investigator trying to figure out, why did this happen? What's the purpose? How can I use what happened and turn it from a potential disaster to a potential opportunity to grow and to learn? Now let's talk a little bit about what do navigators do consistently. And the call to action to each one of you is not only for you to be navigators first, but to really relay that message to your teammates. And by the way, next time you have a team meeting with your team, when you gather together, I want you to think of when you scan the room and begin to listen, what I call with the third ear. And notice who's a victim, who's a critic, who's quite completely shut down, and who truly navigates and brings what navigators do very well. So, navigators, number one, start again with massive self-care. That was my talk on Monday. They don't negotiate their self-care. Physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Navigators have a remarkable outlook and perspective on life. And they have, because if you think about it, all of this is energy. If I'm shut down, there's energy there too. I'm shutting it down though. If I'm mad, I'm spewing that kind of energy. If I'm a victim, it's for me, but it's just, it's all energy. So navigators have a big picture perspective always. And as a result of that, you know, kind of like they pull back the lenses, just like you do in a movie. Like you pull back, you see the big picture. It's tied to a positive attitude towards whatever challenge comes. They actually thrive in challenges. Most of us, when we face something that we feel overwhelmed, we go backwards. If you look at, I'm a sports nut, I'm a sports fanatic. If it's the fourth quarter and there are 3 seconds left, and your team is down by 1, and your team has the ball, you know what navigators do? They lean into it. Give me the ball, I'll take the last shot. You're facing stress, struggles, you lean into it. And that's what makes you great, actually. Lean into it and watch what happens. Fear dissipates, the other thing is that they take action. Navigators are very action-oriented because in life it doesn't matter what we all know. What matters is what do we do with what we know. And navigators take action and they do it consistently with a very positive approach to it. The other thing is that they're really, really flexible and adaptable. That's a huge and a unique characteristics to people that live successful, happy lives is their ability to be flexible and adaptable in the midst of a challenge. So the analogy that I like to use is some of you may have heard this before, but it's the oak tree versus the palm tree. So oak trees are this massive, beautiful, 100-year-old, 100 feet high, provide shade, beauty, they're lovely trees and have been around for a long time. But if there's enough rain and enough saturation on the ground and enough wind, we see this in Florida every year. What happens to oak trees? They come crashing down on people, cars, homes. This is what happens to them, right? On the flip side, palm trees, who are kind of tropical and exotic, they're kind of cute. At the peak of the storm, and I'm talking about the storms of life too, whether professional or personal storms of life, palm trees will bend. And at the very peak, sometimes they can be parallel to the ground, that kind of bending. But when the storm passes, and surely every storm will pass. I'm not talking about hurricanes now, I'm talking about the storms that we face. Guess what happens to palm trees? Whoop, they go up. And actually, they're stronger now because their roots had to dig deep and hold on for dear life while they were going through the storm. So the call to action, of course, is be a palm tree, don't be an oak tree. I gave a talk once, this was in Europe a couple of years ago, and I was sharing this, and I didn't know the speaker that was coming after me was some kind of a biologist or some kind of she was into nature. So she got really offended by what I said. She comes on, she gets totally hijacked, but her own talk goes, well, I just want to say something. Oak trees are really important for the environment. And I'm like, you're not being flexible. You missed the point. I don't hate oak trees. I'm just saying that if there's enough rain, she didn't get it. And she was so upset that I was minimizing the value and the beauty of oak trees. I'm like, oh, you're not getting it. Try to be more flexible next time and open up your mind. I didn't say that, but I thought it. Anyway, so as I've shared this message, people have said, okay, what is an oak tree? A cute story, be a palm tree, don't be an oak tree. We'll remember that, that's cute. But in reality, in human form, what does an oak tree mentality look or sound like? So this is an oak tree. Well, that's the way I've done things for the last 40 years. I'm not going to change now. That's who I am. That's an oak tree mentality. And a lot of times, the oak tree mentality has been successful and has gotten them to this point. So it's based on some data. Being an oak tree, being strong, stable, consistent, these are great attributes, by the way. But guess what? Circumstances have just changed radically. That happened with COVID. It's happening now with the economy. The markets are fluctuating, left and right every day. We don't know what's going on. There's a lot of uncertainty. And although the markets need some kind of certainty, markets like stable things to happen in order to thrive, so do human beings. This isn't just a financial Wall Street kind of a thing. Human beings, we like some kind of predictability. So, oak trees are great. Let's not misunderstand that. But under these circumstances, that's not going to get you from point A to point B. So, the biggest story, who remembers Blockbuster? The video stores. We all used to go there and grab a video, right? Was Blockbuster successful? For many, many, many years, we used to love to go there. And then what happened? Circumstances changed. Innovation happened. Creativity happened. Some small little company called Netflix that Blockbuster had an opportunity to buy, by the way, and they didn't, put them out of business once and for all. Netflix, I read yesterday, is about to become a $1 trillion company. Think about that part. But somebody, because they were oak tree and they had that mentality, well, we dominate, we're in the video, they blew it. So flexibility and adaptability is key. The other analogy is this. If you go to any game, like professional sports, football, basketball, hockey, baseball, or whatever, before the game begins, all these professional athletes that are getting paid millions of dollars just to play a game are out there in the field doing something. What are they doing before the game starts? They practice, but more importantly, they stretch. They stretch. These are the people that are the best physical shape, out of 8 billion people, with like 300 people playing in the NFL. These are the best of the best, the elite athletes. They're perfect bodies, strong, powerful. Why do they stretch, though, before the game starts? What happens if they don't stretch? They're going to pull a hamstring. They're going to get injured. That's exactly right. So, we're in the Super Bowl of life, and there's no reruns, there's no repeats, there's no parts two. This is the only life that we have. If we're not flexible and adaptable as we face what I feel like are not only ongoing challenges, but they seem to be growing and multiplying, and they're almost happening simultaneously, we're going to be hurting ourselves, and not just physically, emotionally, mentally, relationship-wise, and so on. So flexibility, adaptability. The other part is navigators truly immerse themselves in states of gratitude every day. So it's not just a saying, oh, just have an attitude of gratitude. Yes, it's catchy and it sounds good, but it's a lot more than that. They are grateful for everything that happens in their lives, including to what at the time seems like to be a very difficult thing. So lean in, be flexible, have that positive attitude. Move into action. This is the one thing that's the biggest difference between the first three and I think the navigator is that they move into action. I think that's so important. They don't sit around. If you feel like a victim, change the question. If you're angry and cranky and frustrated and so on, do it. Get it out of your system. Move that energy out and pivot again and say, okay, enough. I vented, but it's enough. I don't want to vent for 10 hours, 10 years, 100 years. I want to vent maybe for half an hour. Get out of your system. It's okay that you feel that way. Sometimes it's important for us to move that energy out. So I'm not talking about some kind of toxic positivity where there's no negative emotion. You should never feel anything but happiness. Be happy. No, that doesn't even exist. But when you're facing a challenge, embrace it, understand it, and realize that we stand a choice every single day, no matter what the challenge is. We can choose for ourselves which way that we go. Once you begin to understand this, I'm telling you, the next team meeting that you have, you can go around the room, and when people open up their mouths, I can hear it. Here comes the victim. Oh, I can hear it. Here comes the critic. And sometimes when other people are talking, when I'm in group settings, I don't look at the person that's speaking. I'm scanning the room. And I notice somebody that hasn't said a word for the last hour and a half, haven't said anything. Fear mode, or introvert, or whatever, but make sure that everybody participates. Engage them, bring them out of their shell. And the best way to do that, of course, is for us to create a very safe environment for that to happen, right? The last thing that navigators do really well, and this to me is core to my heart, because it's something that I've embraced throughout my entire life. I co-host a podcast named The Kindness Factor, the Kindness Factor podcast. Kindness is something that navigators do, and they do it, it's almost like second nature. They don't have to think about it. They extend love, they extend patience, they extend care. They're curious. They don't judge. And that kind of curiosity actually is what brings teams closer together. We talked a little bit about this yesterday about engagement, right? Don't judge somebody else that has a different opinion than you. Get more curious and ask, tell me where you're coming from. I don't get where you're coming from. I really don't understand. Well, how are you thinking? How are you supporting this person when or not supporting them? I want to learn from you. It doesn't mean that I have to agree with everything you're saying, or that you're going to convince me something different. But if at least I can understand where you're coming from, then a lot of the team conflict, I think, goes out the window. Because even if somebody is completely opposite than me, if they feel like I'm making a genuine effort to understand, their walls are going to go down rather than get defensive. I spent 18 years as a clinical psychologist. I did so much marriage counseling, you have no idea. And talk about conflict and an inability to hear one another. I can't tell you how many times I said, listen, we can resolve this together, please don't let all the lawyers have all the money and all the fun. Honestly, you're going to waste $100,000 and you're going to be right back where we are right now. So are you willing to hear something different? You're not going to get everything you want. That's part of conflict resolution, of course, is I'm not getting everything. If I got everything, that means you got nothing. Well, that doesn't work. So be open-minded, coach your folks, help them to understand the different personality types, have a discussion with them and get curious about them, have them become curious about what they are. Because the ultimate goal is you want your team to be full of navigators, starting with you as a leader. It starts with you. You exemplify that. You show that to them. You walk the talk authentically. And if you're having a bad day, because nobody's perfect, own it. Most people will give you grace if you own it. Realistically, authentically say, yeah, I had a really rough day. You really didn't deserve me, raising my voice. But there's so much room for misinterpretation and things going south. So just go that extra mile with your teams. Any thoughts or questions about, we have, I think, 5 more minutes. Questions, anybody? Yes, no? Wow. Even though I'm freezing to death, I must have done something right. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Is there a personality type that you cannot work with? Not as a navigator. Not from these 4. If we're going to go deep into psychology, like a narcissist, yeah, most likely you're not going to have any success with a narcissist. Even Sigmund Freud said they're like uncoachable. They're like, So, but from these 4 personality types, which is the majority of human beings fall into one of these 4 categories, and remember that we all have them inside ourselves to some degree. It's not like I don't have the victim, but it's a very small voice. It rarely comes out. I'm not afraid very much of that maybe get mad from time to time, and I notice that. But since I've learned to navigate even if it's so-called righteous anger, well, they deserved it. Okay, let's say they did deserve it. You staying mad at them for the next week, month, a year, what does that accomplish? Okay? Navigate, pivot, and continue to do that. And remember to be a palm tree. Thank you for that question. I don't think I personally haven't found a personality type that I'm not able to work with. But if I can understand it, even with, if you're in customer service and somebody calls, I give an entire talk on customer service and about these 4 personality types. You can tell on the phone where they're coming from. If they get on the phone and they're spewing profanities left and right, okay, critic, duly noted, they're screaming in my ear. If they get on the phone and they say, you know what, this always happens to me, the poor me, they're in victim mode. And that's just information and data for you to gather so you know how to talk to them about it. If they're fearful and like, I just lost my house on fire, I'm overwhelmed, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Then they're in fear mode. That requires you to be more gentle and more understanding with them. It's like, you know what? I'm your insurance agent. We'll do this together. Step by step. I'm by your side. Don't worry. I got your back. It's if somebody's a victim, you commiserate with them. Like, yeah, you're totally right. This totally sucks. And then you slowly start to explain to them, like, you know what? I know your home burned to the ground, but so did 999 other homes. You're not alone. Thank you. Right? The angry one is the toughest one, I think, because if they're already angry, what I say to them is like, this isn't personal. It's not personal. Sometimes I've been frustrated with companies, you get on customer service, it takes 5 minutes to even get to a real human being. Then they tell you, oh, you need to talk to this extension. I'm going to put you through, and then it drops your call. I had that happen 3 times in a row. It was 45 minutes on the phone. I was about to lose. I was so close to losing it. So when the 4th customer service agent got on the call, I'm like, listen, here's what's happened. It's not your fault, but I'm really pissed right now. It's nothing personal. It has nothing to do with you. But your company and your system basically sucks because I just want to talk to somebody that can No, but it's true though. I do say it that way, but I tell them it's not personal. I know it's not personal. I know you're here to try to help me, but here's what happened. By the way, here's my phone number. If you drop me again, please call me back. So we can finish. So I don't have to start, because this is the 4th time I've done the same story, and we're not any closer to navigating the solution. So yes, I've gotten pissed at from time to time. But I'm also cognizant that you didn't do it. You're just doing your job. You're here to help me. Maybe the other three were also, maybe they're incompetent, maybe not, but at this point, it doesn't even matter. I just want to get this done. Can you help me? And if you say it that way, most people actually, yep, they come down, I can help you. Last thoughts, comments, last thoughts. Thank you for your time. Conflict is inevitable, but we shouldn't be scared of the word conflict. And to me, I go beyond the win-win-win. Like, to me, there's more than wins. So I actually have 4 wins in my lexicon, if you will. When there's a conflict and we resolve it, I win, you win, we both win, and then the team who's observing us resolve conflict in a kind, respectful manner. They go, wow, I thought these two were going to kill each other in the meeting today. But they didn't. And they walked out, hugging and like, yeah, we did. We're a team. We're all in this together. Nobody's better than anybody else. We're all here to support one another. And even the great Greek philosopher Aristotle said 2,500 years ago, everybody has their own struggle. This is kind of translated from the ancient Greek, basically being, show some grace, extend some kindness, some patience, some understanding. Be curious first and judgmental second, right? Because I think when we go into judgment right away, we get hijacked. And then we get reactive. If I go into curiosity and ask you, oh, tell me where you're coming from so I can understand. Even if I disagree, it's going to bring us closer together. And the boundaries and the defensiveness that they have is going to get lowered. And then they'll feel understood by you. Human beings have 2 great needs. To be loved is number 1, obviously. But the second greatest need is to feel understood by somebody else. And when you're in the presence of, whether it could be a colleague, your boss, a direct report, and you feel like they get you, it's a whole different game. Or if you show up that way, with an open mind, with an open heart, with curiosity, and they feel that from you, and they know that you're not just pretending just to get this meeting over with, but you truly care about them, magic happens. I have seen that over and over again in organizations that were almost unsalvageable because they were so toxic, right? You start introducing and playing on this field that I'm talking about, it changes everything. So, thank you for your time. I think our time is up.
Thank you for watching today's episode. Click the episode description below to learn more about our guests and to view the latest podcast episode, as well as other content from HawkSoft. We appreciate you watching and hope you join us next time on the Insurance Perspectives Podcast. Thank you.